Welcome to our Arts Learning Bite on the Arts Text Selection Tool Addendum. We want to acknowledge that the thinking and language shared here has been adapted from the York Region District School Board's text selection tool and the Ontario Arts curriculums 1 to 8 and 9 to 12. Central to the development of this addendum are the big ideas and underlying processes of the arts curriculums from 1 to 12, as well as our work in the arts to enact a cultural curriculum. In this learning bite, we will become familiar with the context, purpose, and pedagogies driving the text selection tool for the arts, highlighting text accessibility, culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy, and critical literacy within the areas of the learner, the learning, and the environment. The director's 3 questions ask, what are we doing? What is changing as a result of our actions? Who is better off because of our work? The work in our classrooms and schools is in service of student success. The director's action plan and the arts connect as we plan for instruction and assessment that centers student voice in learning, assessment, and decision-making. A focus on anti-oppression, Indigenous education, and dismantling anti-Black racism in the arts will support mental health and well-being. The data from Every Student Counts also tells us a story from students that not all students feel they matter and belong.
This is the first slide of the Arts Addendum for the text selection tool. When you open the tool, this is the slide that you'll see first. The text selection tool addendum was co-created with input and feedback from the secondary heads groups of dance drama, music, and visual arts. We would like to extend gratitude and thanks to these colleagues for sharing their thinking with us. Our arts curriculum supports the thinking that anything can be read and is a text. The various arts disciplines are therefore a vital component of literacy education. Dance, drama, media arts, music, and visual arts promote literacies that contribute to the students' abilities to explore, negotiate, communicate, interpret, and make sense of the changing realities of contemporary culture, technology, and society. Our curriculum tells us that education in the arts prepares students not only to adapt to change, but also to be active participants in bringing about that change. It's important to remember that art forms from around the world use a variety of symbol systems and languages. Each of our disciplines has its own unique literacy that we need to uncover with our students. In this tool, you'll have an opportunity to see more from our curriculum by clicking the orange A. You can then come back to this slide. Or you can go back and look at a professional learning bite on literacies in the arts. In this opening slide, we've included a quotation from Dr. Ruben Gaztembi Fernandez. He says, "The focus has been on how that which is called the arts presumably challenges racism and encourages social justice, with very little attention to how the opposite is also the case. How can we, as arts educators, enact a cultural curriculum that enables students to enjoy very particular cultural forms and products without erasing very particular realities and without erasing the people that created those forms?" Here's the second page of our arts addendum. Our work and thinking on this text selection tool is directly influenced from the Dismantling Anti-Black Racism strategy and the Indigenous Education and the Equity strategy from YRDSB. If you've not already done so, you need to become familiar with these policy documents. Priority 4 of the Dismantling Anti-Black Racism strategy says that we, as a staff, need to work to improve outcomes for and well-being of Black students. This might mean noticing, naming, and then replacing certain arts practices, texts, and ways of knowing or doing. Priority 5 of the same strategy asks us to enact a culturally relevant and Black affirming curriculum. This is our work as arts educators, and this is our professional responsibility. As with priority 4, the actions in this priority might mean noticing, naming, and then replacing certain arts practices, texts, or ways of knowing and doing. In the Indigenous Education and Equity Strategy, YRDSB recognizes that Indigenous students and students of diverse social identities have been historically marginalized by systemic barriers and may be underserved, which results in varying levels of underperformance and gaps in student achievement and well-being. Ongoing data from multiple sources will help align resources to support our schools, identify and eliminate systemic barriers to student success, and create more equitable and inclusive school environments, as well as improve student achievement and well-being. In YRDSB, we work to identify and implement these strategies that center marginalized voices and student agency to deepen understandings of the social identities and lived experiences of all learners, including English language learners and students with disability. The text selection tool will help us in this work. While we recognize the many ways that the arts can celebrate, affirm, and connect learners, we also need to acknowledge that some texts can also marginalize, trigger, and cause harm.
The Arts Text Selection Addendum has been created using the critical analysis process framework. You'll notice that the grades 1 to 8 version is very similar to grades 9 to 12. We saw this in the way in which the process of selecting or co-selecting alongside students when you're looking at resources and texts was a very similar process of critical analysis, which we all as arts educators are familiar with as it's part of our curriculum in grades 1 through 12. You can use this very similar process to guide your thinking around the text selection tool. You can learn more about the critical analysis process by clicking on the links.
When you open the tool, you will see this framework. Do you see the alignment with the critical analysis process? At the center, you will see 3 guiding questions have been put in place of the feedback that existed before. The 3 questions are, who am I, who are my learners, and who are we together? These are connected to every stage as our planning, instruction, and assessment should always be responsive. The first part is our initial thinking. This is where we say, I need a text, I need a resource. We are looking here at the learner, the learning, and the environment. The questions we might ask are, who are my learners? How will this text help meet my learning goal? And does the text uphold or perpetuate a Western worldview to the exclusion or oppression of others? The next section is analysis. This is where we say, okay, I found a text. In this stage, we are looking at accessibility, representation, and mitigation. The questions are, is this text available in different modalities? Does it affirm views of historically and currently marginalized communities? How am I taking a trauma-sensitive and healing-centered approach? What anti-racist agreements, complementary texts, and or contextual learning might be required? This next stage is about sociocultural considerations. Is where we're saying, okay, I found the text now, and now I'm investigating this text. So we're asking, is this text a window? Is there opportunity for insight and understanding? Is it a mirror? Is there opportunities for reflection and affirmation? Or is it a sliding glass door? Is there an opportunity for action and agency for my students? The last stage becomes an informed point of view. This is where we are thinking about how we're actually going to be introducing the text alongside our students. So we're looking at student engagement, pedagogical skill and knowledge, as well as curriculum content. The questions are, how are the learners engaged in critically assessing texts and resources? How might this text support students in learning about the lived experiences about themselves and others? Does the classroom environment support students challenging biases and navigating challenging topics and themes as they engage with the text? What norms, complementary text, and or contextual learning might be required? We want to add this thought bubble in to get you to think about this question. How has my thinking changed? How does this particular text contribute to the collection of texts that I'm presenting? What texts might need to be replaced? Before you move on, we want to ask you, how might you move from an I to a we with students alongside to co-create the learning and learning environments?
we wanted to offer out one last way of thinking. It's not about the text, it's what we do with it. So, knowing your learners and the learning community you serve complements the development of a cultural curriculum through holding high expectations. We're all working on increasing our cultural competence and our critical consciousness together. We need to understand the role of power, privilege, and social location and how they operate in our classrooms. Tricia Bavaria says, the canon is a construction. So, who constructed it? How and why? What and whom does it center? Who benefits? And at whose expense? These words remind us that no text or environment is neutral or apolitical. The canon of resources and texts that we choose to use can devalue the contributions of global creators by imposing an artificial hierarchy. We need to interrogate who's in and who's out of our collections of resources, and this requires an anti-oppressive, culturally relevant, and responsive stance. Teachers and students together in our arts classes must question these rules of greatness. We need to consider the issues of gender, race, class, religion, and geography, among others. What you see on this slide are guiding questions. They will help us to have a critical lens on the collection of texts that are offered in our classrooms and that support student learning.
Students benefit from mirrors that allow them to see themselves, their experiences, and their communities in school. For these and other students, culturally responsive teaching provides critical windows into the cultural heritage and experiences of others. Instructional materials, assignments, and texts that reflect students' backgrounds and experiences are critical to engagement and deep, meaningful learning. The text selection tool is not about telling you what to teach or how to teach. Again, this tool is not about telling you what to teach or how to teach. This tool was designed in exactly the opposite way. It was a move away from a central vetting process to a process which gives teachers the tools they need to make their own decisions about the texts in the classrooms that they serve and the students that they serve. Central to this all are the three questions. Who am I? Who are my learners? And who are we together? We need to start with these questions even before we begin diving into our curricular areas. This is not about saying that any art movement or artwork is out. It's not about saying a way of playing or doing, a musician to listen to, a dance step is out. It is about the and. It is about holding a culturally relevant and responsive stance as we examine the body or repertoire of texts that we present and center when we teach in, through, and about the arts. The application of this tool may result in a text being selected, supplemented, or even rejected. And specific instructional strategies need to be selected and applied to provide context and ensure multiple perspectives and multiple entry points. It is about the right art text with the right supports for the right students at the right time. From this slide, you can access the original tool, including all the questions and the placemat version of the text selection tool.
Thanks for spending some time with us today. We hope you found it helpful. Please be sure to use the text selection tool and the arts addendum as you plan for instruction and assessment in the arts. Reach out to us if you have questions. We're here to support you. Please be sure to head back to the menu to access supporting resources and provide feedback, or select another bite. If you've not already done so, watch the complimentary video called Literacies in the Arts. See you next time.